Another way to look at it is it's really a journey, right? If you think about digitization, it's really a journey. So over here, what I've shown is the pre-internet days, obviously, especially the younger ones in the room, you may not have seen some of these things that I've listed here, like pagers and beepers, and you're wondering, what are these things, right? Well, guess what? If you go to the museum today, you might find them there. Yeah. Yeah, I see some of us can relate to that. I remember when I first started work, when I had my first pager, I was so excited by it, right? Yeah, but today nobody uses the pager anymore. But you should start to move from left to right. I start to think about, the internet of content. When the internet was invented in the early 1990s, things started to change for all of us. That was the time when it really started changing. You have the emails, you have the short text, search engine, treasury management system, internet banking. Think about all those things that happened not too long ago. Actually, not too long ago, if you think about that. Right? And then you have the smartphones in the 2000, early 2000. E-commerce came in. You have your mobile banking on your phone. And then you go to social media. And then the cloud came in. So when you start to think about your treasury operations, the data that you have in your servers in the office that's locked, that is secured, some of you may not have seen that. Where are those things? Because the data has gone to the cloud. But it's more powerful because as you start to think about, well, how do I want to use those data? How can I actually analyze the data in a faster, better, more efficient way? Cloud is the way because it's extremely efficient and it's able to move very, very fast at a speed that we cannot imagine. And then as you start to move on to the right-hand side, you have things like blockchain, right? Many of us still remember when Bitcoin first came out. What was that? It created a lot of hoo-ha in the marketplace. So people are trying to understand, what is all these things going on? Is it going to replace the traditional currencies that we have? Right? Today, cryptocurrencies are still alive, very much alive. Some of you, I think, could be, if you represent certain companies that might be exploring cryptocurrencies or thinking or planning to use cryptocurrencies for perhaps your internal processes, I guess you basically will understand how to leverage some of these technologies or even blockchain for anything else within the business to be able to track and trace what's going on. And today in the auto industry, for example, the blockchain is widely used to track cars that they're going to recall if there are certain components within the cars that's faulty. And it's a very efficient way to do that because then they are able to look up very quickly and know exactly what cars are impacted. And peer-to-peer today, very, very powerful. Now you have things like machine learning, you have artificial intelligence, sharing economy. How many of you here use Uber? Airbnb? Okay, so basically, the sharing economy is growing. It may not necessarily be picking up that much, but this is the world that we live in today, right? So have we arrived? Are we at the future yet? You will decide. All right, technologies that are disrupting the world. So I mentioned tablets, smartphones. Can I have a raise of hands? How many of you here have smartphones or tablet in your hands? Keep it up. Now, keep it up. Now, if I were to ask you, right, how many of you have your data that's stored in the cloud today, your own personal data? See? It's a lot of you, right? The world is changing, right? Data is no longer in the thumb drive. Remember the thumb drive? I'm not sure. I actually have one that looks like a thumb, literally like a thumb drive, right? So, if you start to think about the mobility, the changes in mobility, 3G to 5G and perhaps beyond, as you start to think about the capabilities in storage, processing power, it's unimaginable. But what does that do to Treasury? What does that do to Treasury? So today we're going to discuss a couple of this here. And when you see things like robotics, APIs, blockchain, AI, artificial intelligence, ML stands for machine learning, big data, Internet of Things. These are the buzzwords that you deal with almost every day because you will receive emails from various sources that talk about these things. But today, we're not here to talk about the what, but rather of more of the how. Okay? So this is the reason why we have Rob and Lisa from Caterpillar and Microsoft to share with you a little bit more about what they do in their organizations, so that you have an appreciation of what can perhaps be harnessed for your own treasury operations. Before we go into that, let's have another poll. What are the key drivers for exploring or pursuing newer digital technologies within Treasury? And you can select all that apply. Is it A, is supporting transformational change and development that's happening in the business? Or B, is transforming the role of Treasury to serve as a strategic partner to the business? C, you're addressing efficiency and scalability priorities in Treasury. D, you're improving decision-making in Treasury. E, facilitating governance oversight for Treasury and finance functions. Or F, not applicable, don't know, not sure. Oh, you can only pick one? Okay, all right, then pick one then. My apologies.
That's why the top one's got more votes.
Yeah, let's give it a few more seconds for the smartphones to come out. Okay, I think we're more or less in a way there. So I see that 1/5 of the room here says supporting transformational changes within Treasury, and perhaps another 40% of you transforming the role of Treasury, and 30% of you say addressing efficiency, scalability priorities in Treasury. I mean, Rob and Lisa, does this result surprise you at all? Or?
No, I don't think so. I would have picked number 2. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, I guess, in just a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think technology for me, I would have gone efficiency and scalability priorities. That idea of doing more, of having to be able to scale as the business scales, and finding ways that my people become more that value add than chasing data and doing things that we can find more efficient ways to do.
Okay.
All right. So over at Citi, I introduced to you what I did at Citi. So as an advisor, so sometimes we do go out and survey our clients to see what their thinking is. And here I'm sharing with you a slide of a survey that actually went out the earlier part of this year, something that we call the Treasury Digitization Survey. Some of you may have actually responded to that. Now, when we want to look at what are the factors that will drive the most change in Treasury 3 to 5 years from now, so we asked some of these questions that you had earlier answered. And basically, most of the responses, as you can see here, but of course this is a little bit different from what you did, because you could only pick one response. And I believe some of you would have picked the top 3, perhaps, as your priorities, right? So I see some heads nodding in the room, that's great. So as you can see, the top 2 responses has to do with digitization. It has to do with digitization. Digitization, new technology, digitization-driven changes, enterprise business model, the change in the trading model, as I alluded to earlier on. So things like this basically is transforming the way Treasury is doing things. See, what happens when your business change? In Treasury, we can't say that we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing. That's not gonna work. Okay, we have to find ways to deal with the trading model changes that are going on in your company. If you have an e-commerce model that's coming in Treasury, you'll be concerned about, well, how are you going to collect from some of these channels that's coming on, right? And then if there are other things like, I talk about instant payments, real-time liquidity, how are you going to think about making those payments, right? Assuming that it's cheap enough, the price is correct. If the price is right, maybe you might move to that. But I think these are some of the things that basically is going on out there that Stokes, at least think about what's going on. And the rest of it, as you can see, like the re-engineering and refinement of Treasury model, changes in regulations of tax, expansion of Treasury scope and remit, is really not so much in the priorities of our Treasury people out there. Okay. And so with that, I would hand the mic over to Rob to talk about what's going on in Caterpillar.
Okay, thanks. Well, you probably didn't use any Caterpillar products today, unlike you probably did use Lisa's products in the last 24 hours at least. But so Caterpillar, about $55 billion in revenue last year, and we're known for different things. Probably in this area of the country, mostly we're known for construction equipment or heavy equipment. I did live in Chile for 3 years, and there we were mainly known as like a shoe company. I guess Caterpillar shoes are really big down there. So I would tell somebody I work for Caterpillar, and they're like, oh, can I get a free pair of shoes? But actually, yeah, what we're increasingly focused on, and don't worry, I'm not gonna go through all this, but increasingly we are focused on digital and services. That's clearly the future of the company. Yes, we're still proud of the iron and the reliability and dependability of our equipment, but adding productivity and value to our customers is increasingly the future. So by the end of this year, we're projecting to have about 1 million connected assets throughout the world. So that could be anything from an autonomous mine vehicle to simply a machine that's connecting to help let us know when preventive maintenance is needed to reduce downtime. So this increasing focus on the company has been helpful from a Treasury standpoint, because as we look to invest in data analytics or innovation, it really dovetails quite nicely into the overall enterprise strategy. From a Treasury perspective, we did lay out our analytics roadmap. In the next slide, I'll go into some more detail, some more examples, but the path that we're on is how we migrate from a descriptive, fancy dashboards, new ways to look at data, to how do we get to predictive modeling, helping us make better decisions. And then eventually the blue dot is how we get to prescriptive solutions. But then the key on I guess that would be your right-hand side, is looking at business value. And that goes back to the survey questions. We want to look at everything through a lens. How do we not just make things appear better and make better Microsoft PowerPoint presentations? Those are great. But at the end of the day, what's going to be the value? What decisions, how are we going to ultimately help our customers from everything that we're doing, even in an internal service organization like Treasury?